Venkatesh sir, I have dropped the message in our chat box, that is our WhatsApp chat, to people to join. So I think the numbers will add.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Let's start now. Venkatesh sir, we'll start. We'll appreciate the speaker's presence and the audience presence. Let's not wait for any more time. We'll appreciate the time and we'll start. Namaste, Kulkarni sir. You are a student, Naveen here. Namaste.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir. We will start. Dear participants, it's my privilege to welcome Dr. S.M. Kulkarni for the session, for the FDP. Till now, we could listen to Mr. Vinayak Kamath from the industry perspective. What are the various benefits of additive manufacturing, where all they use, the various case studies he explained wonderfully. Now we will be having the session on additive manufacturing technologies by Dr. S.M. Kulkarni, and various technologies like SLA, DLP, CDLP, SLS. We have been listening to them, and we will know more about those technologies, how they are used, where they are used, and all those things. Let me introduce Dr. Kulkarni to you all. He is working as a professor at Department of Mechanical Engineering, NITK Surathkal, and his research interests are in the field of material science, especially composites and sandwiches, processing and characterization, composites of recycled materials, mechatronics, MEMS, and he has extended from just being at the composite material towards even product development, prototyping, modeling, analysis of mechanical systems. Along with research interests, he has also demonstrated his teaching interest in the field of product development, prototyping, virtual and rapid mechatronic systems, MEMS, modeling as well as analysis. Has a profound experience of 27 years of teaching, out of which 16 years of experience are in dedicated research work. His publications are 73 publications from 53 different journals and 70 conferences, and has 11 H-index in the Google Scholar and 10 H-index count in the Scopus Index. And his PhD thesis is in the field of processing microstructural and mechanical behavior aspects of fly ash epoxy composites, for which he has been awarded Sir Vittal and Chandravarkar Award for the best PhD thesis. He has written a book chapter number 6 under flexural behavior of functionally graded sandwich composites, published by Intech Publisher. Has also written a monograph based on the pneumatic pressure sensing with PVDF film, published by Lambert Academic Publishers, Germany. He is the editor-in-chief of International Journal of Mechatronics and Automation, STM Publishers. He is also a peer reviewer of Journal of Material Science and which are the top journals in the field of material science. He is the life member of ISTE, IE, AMM, MRSI, and ISSS. He is the academic Board of Studies member for Manipal University, Kuvempu University, VTU, SDM Dharwad, and VBB Hubli. He has guided successfully 7 research scholars towards their PhD award, and he has got 4 projects funded for NITK, out of which 2 have been completed and 2 are undergoing. This is just a brief introduction about Dr. S.M. Kulkarni, and I'm very proud to have him as our advisor for the Department of Mechanical Engineering. And under his advice, we have improved a lot. We could take lots of inputs from him, and I am thankful to him. And once again, I thank you, sir, for being a part of this FDP, and we look forward to listen more from you. And without taking much of your time, I open the podium open to you, sir. Thanks once again.
Thank you, Mr. Venkatesh. Very nice introduction about me. I don't know how much I stand about this. This is all just through these years I accumulated. So, and it is very nice to be with you after a long time. Maybe this pandemic has disturbed our schedule. Actually, I was supposed to be, rather, we used to meet in your campus, in your DSC meetings.
Correct,
so
sir.
We miss all that fun. Yeah, we miss all that fun. Anyhow, we have to go by the nature's law, and we are meeting this online. And I am very happy to be a part of this FDP, Atal FDP. So whatever I have learned about this additive manufacturing, which in earlier role it was called rapid prototyping, I would like to share with you, and whatever based on whatever learning I had, so I will be happy to answer your questions. So at the outset, I welcome all the participants who have come from different say backgrounds and different areas. So, and I wish a very good learning experience through this FDP. Canara administration has struggled a lot to get a lot of good resource person, and one demo you have just seen in the earlier part of the morning session, where profound knowledge of the industrial personally. His talk was such an enlightening. Rather, I couldn't attend the part, but later part I could attend, and he has answered many of the questions so nicely, and he has created so much of interest in you that there were so many interesting questions posed to him. So it was very nice to go through that. And with that, the topic that I have planned is the technologies for additive manufacturing. My background as such to talk about this is from product development and prototyping. So prototyping is a venture which used to be a very time-consuming venture, and prototyping is not a mass manufacture. It used to be for a single or maybe few kinds of prototypes. That is why the treatment of making these prototypes has to be very quick, rapid, and say less time-consuming, less cost-intensive, and less human resource intensive, HR intensive. So that is why the origin of this manufacturing, this kind of manufacturing, layered manufacturing, which you have already learned, is from the prototyping nature. So my perspective will be from the rapid prototyping version, which was the earlier avatar of additive manufacturing. So I would like to take you through that and discuss the available technologies for this additive manufacturing, by which you will be able to judge which is suitable for a particular kind of product or part. So that is the total concern. I have planned my talk in these subtopics. First, I will quickly go through different approaches to part manufacture. Already my predecessor, Dr. Kamath, has rather elaborated on this subtractive, additive and formative manufacture. I will just quickly touch upon that and then go to the basic of additive manufacturing. What is additive manufacturing and why is additive manufacturing? Then components of an additive manufacturing system. Typically, it is like connecting a computer to your machine, and whatever you draw, 3D image you draw on the computer, that will be created in a machine. It is like a 3D Xerox. You can say 3D Xerox, 3D printer. So you connect your computer CAD model to a machine, and that machine will print not just a image of the part, but it will print the part in physical form. So that is, so for this we require a CAD model, we require a converter of the CAD model information into something understood by the machine, and we require a part building machine, which is the heart of the entire system. The crux of today's lecture will be the part building machine or part building technologies. So we have three major parts in a additive manufacturing system: CAD modeler, slicing and part building. My concern will be more on the latter two, slicing and part building. So we will learn about 7 part building technologies, how they work, what is the kind of raw material, what is the kind of type part you get, what is the process like. That is what we will discuss for these 7 technologies. Then we will start with ASTM classification. ASTM has divided all these part building technologies into 7 families, and I will take one representative from each family of part building technique and discuss how it works. So finally, we will conclude with the summary of this talk, and whatever clarifications you need, we will look at those things later. So there are 3 different part manufacturing approaches. One is earliest is formatting. Make a mold, create a cavity, put a molten material into the cavity and allow it to cool. The molten material, after cooling, takes the shape of the cavity that you have created. So this is the good old casting technique. And the same thing now we have having injection molding, where we are injecting a fluid plastic in the fluid form into a cavity, and when the cavity opens up, you have the part cooled in that shape. So this is the good old formative technique. Then these are the examples: injection molding, die casting, pressing, stamping, etc. The second approach is you start with a bigger block of material, cut the material out wherever you want to, rather what kind of shape you want to create. Based on that, you remove the material. You are taught in basic mechanical engineering large number of material removal processes like turning, milling, drilling, right? All these are examples of material removal, subtractive processes, subtractive approach to part building or part making. Then the third approach of late which has kicked up or which is becoming more popular is the additive manufacturing or additive approach. The additive approach, the first principle of additive approach is the part is created layer by layer. One layer is made and on that another layer is put. Those two layers will fuse together and gradually the part will be built. So this is the principle of additive manufacture. Layer by layer and assembly is the crux of additive manufacturing. Yeah. So this is the comparison between subtractive manufacturing and additive manufacturing. Dr. Kamath also mentioned that there is a lot of waste in the subtractive manufacturing. Though some part of it can be recycled, but even the recycling costs a lot. Say for example, when I start with a material like this, when I start with a basic material, I'll just open my pointer. So when I start with a material like this and using the subtractive approach, drilling, milling or turning, I remove the material and this is part I require and I'm generating a lot of waste. But if it is the other way around, additive manufacturing, I use this waste and compact it to create the part. So the waste is less when I go for additive approach. So the same is depicted here. So what I am interested in making is a pawn, right? So subtractive approach indicates that I should cut the material and shape it like this. But the additive approach makes me to think that I can create layer by layer and achieve the objective of fabricating this part. So this approach reduces cost. Here are some of the advantages and disadvantages of, and as it was discussed in the question answer session, it is the economics that is governing. When the number of parts is less, definitely such additive manufacturing will rule the selection. Forming and subtract manufacture to some extent they are economical when we are producing large number. Say injection molding is economical when I make a mold and use it for say 1,000 parts. The cost of the mold gets distributed over 1,000, 10,000 parts. That is why the cost of injection molding, cost of the part rather drastically comes down when we are using these processes. So ultimately, it is the economics which governs the selection of these processes. So when the part is big, presently the build rates are less, cost is more, and only when you have different complex designs, then you can go for additive manufacturing. So it is nicely said in point number 2, complexity you get for free. That means any complex shape you can manufacture which otherwise is difficult to manufacture by CNC or injection molding or other types of processes. So this is a quick comparison of these approaches. So with these advantages, we would like to rather look into the additive manufacturing, what it is and all. So if we go back to history, it all started with photo sculpture. Photo sculpture, there are 2 epochs, those are accredited to this photo sculpture. One is the Francois William was asked by his king to create a life-size doll of the king within a very short period. The story goes like that. So he hired about 6 sculptors and he divided, or rather he started with a cylindrical piece and he divided the cylindrical piece into 6 areas, and he took, rather he drew the picture of king on these 6 portions and asked them to say independently work, and finally that consolidated into a, so this is called photo sculpture. And photosensitive gelatin was found in 1904. Gelatin is a material which swells with exposure to moisture. What we did is we started with gelatin, covered the required parts of the gelatin with some material and then exposed it to moisture. The gelatin got swollen in those parts, creating the shape of a human being. That was Bias in 1904. Some more epochs got added, like photo sculpture and topography. Topography is creating a survey map, 3D survey map of Earth. See where there is a mountain, where there is a valley. This was all made by cutting curved sheets and stacking them. This was done by Morioka in 1934. To say, you see some of these models, say power project models or building models, tabletop models. So they, like that, it was created by stacking those sheets, cutting those sheets and cutting, attaching those sheets to create a structure. So this was the earliest maybe idea to make a solid object out of small layers. And in 1951, the earliest way of curing a photosensitive resin came into existence by months, and later on we have rather commercial versions of this stereolithography apparatus, which is one of the earliest, say, part building technology in rapid prototyping, or else now we call it as additive manufacturing. So there are some of the, again, triggering events of additive manufacturing in history. In 1968, photosensitive polymer was discovered by Swenson, added to the UV curing resin, which takes the shape. Then Sircod gave the idea of compacting a powder with some energy used for fusing these powder particles. So these are some of the rather noted events in the history of additive manufacturing. But presently, rather earlier to this additive manufacturing was called by the name rapid prototyping. So now coming to the perspective of this, why do we require this additive manufacturing for prototyping? Quickly, I'll just say, request you to observe the product development process. So once we imagine something, imagine a product, we would like to say, first concept we will put it down, then we will identify the different systems, we design the part, and we want to make those parts assemble as a product and test the prototype before the design is frozen. The entire time to market, entire time spent in concept to the launch of the product is called TTM, time to market. Now, if Nokia or Samsung or OnePlus, if they imagine a product today, how much time they will take? Hardly 6 months. The time to market earlier, in a giant like General Motors, to launch a car, it used to take few years. But now, the TTM for a new car in General Motors, they, in one of the literature I could read, it is hardly 18 months. So today, if they conceive a new kind of a vehicle within 18 months, all this is due to different advancements in this product development process. So pictorially, I can represent these advancements in a graph like this. So first thing that cut down the time was design modeling, visualization of design. Now there is no other alternative to CAD. Every one of us know what CAD is, right? With the inclusion of computer-aided design, 3D modeling, 3D visualization, and analysis, FE analysis, with all these things, we could cut down the design and analysis time for a new product. Now we also added structural analysis, whether the part is strong enough or whether the part fails at this, what are the forces that the part can sustain, what is the optimum shape for this, say, these forces coming on the part. All this can be done using our finite element analysis. So we cut down the analysis part. Earlier we used to make prototypes, load them, it was called destructive testing. So that is now deferred for a later time. So engineering analysis and design optimization was cut down to minimum by finite element modeling. You can do lot of iterations within no time. And the third thing that came into product development was rapid physical prototyping. Rapid physical prototyping along with virtual prototyping. You also have virtual reality. Now you can put your put your product on virtual reality platform. People will wear those glasses, they will go around and they will physically feel the product, and then you can freeze based on their inputs and all those things. So virtual prototyping, because of the computer invasion, it hit, as well as physical prototyping, that is physical part building, was given immense thrust by this rapid prototyping or additive manufacturing. So this is the final time that we saved by adding all these things. And one of the time saving factors was this additive manufacturing or rapid physical prototyping. And the entire this is called time compression. You can compress the new development, new product development time by all these approaches. Now these are some of the parts made from AM. See, one of the things that new product development seeks is that to visualize new product, how it looks. Say a cell phone model. These are old models, of course, but they can be quickly made either by, say, stereolithography or three-dimensional printing. We have the right technologies, right family of technologies now in AM. So they can be made quickly and verified. See, one example is shown in figure B, and figure A shows some parts, industrial parts made by a process called FDM, fused deposition modeling, and figure C shows some parts made by three-dimensional printing. So these are some of the ventures, some of the parts, prototypes which could be made quickly from the CAD model to the physical part. The time taken is very, very less. So another advantage of rapid manufacture or additive manufacture is the rapid tooling. See, you want to create large number of injection molded components, but for that you require a mold. To create that mold, you require a pattern. And who will give you the pattern? You draw the pattern on the computer modeler, 3D modeler, and use RP or AM technique, additive manufacturing technique, to create a pattern, and that pattern you can use for creating a rapid tool, quick tool. There are so many case histories on that. Maybe some of them you will they'll be discussed in due course in this rather FDP. So basic elements of additive manufacturing are put here. We have to start with a modeler. This is typically a a CAD workstation, a computer, where 3D model is created, and for that the input is given, CAD data is input, the dimensions, physical inputs, then part, say material, all these things are given here. Then the modeler data is passed on to the computer of the part building machine. Earlier they used to be separate, but now we can connect the modeler itself with the part builder, right? So what happens in this chain? In this chain, typically the CAD model is sliced. The CAD model information is, say, used to create slices of the part, thin layers of the part, right? The geometry with the thickness ranging from 0.25 microns to maybe 1 micron, right? So these fine slices are made. Suppose if I have a cone to build, the first slice will have a large diameter, and gradually the diameter of the slice decrease, but the thickness will remain constant. So such slicing is created in the software. That slice data is sent to the part builder. This is the part builder, in which the part is built layer by layer, and finally some say secondary process is to be done. This is called post processing, where some edges which are created can be sanded, or some extra features which you have come, they can be removed, or if there is an overhanging part, there is a support material, they have to be cleaned. All these secondary processes or post processes can be done. So typically my concern now is, one is about slicing. I will talk something about slicing and the part building technology, the 7 family of part building technologies which are used and how they work. That is the total content of my talk. So another visualization of this process chain for additive manufacturing. The process chain starts with a 3D CAD model, then the slicing information created by the software, and the slicing information is used for part building, and after part building is a rather iterative process like this. Once the part building is done, required height of the part is made, the finished part is taken out and subjected to post processing. So this is a simple chain of additive manufacturing. So these are the elements of additive manufacturing. The 3D model, data conversion and transmission, CAD STL file, that is for the exchange. The data exchange takes place through either .stl file or IGS file. STL stands for tessellation file, right? I think I have in the next slide. And IGS stands for Interactive Graphics Exchange Standard. Using this, it will be transferred to the slicing software, and slicing software creates the slices. And based on the slicing information, part is built. So let me just spend little time on slicing. So parts are fabricated by layers or slices. That is the first thing in additive manufacturing. Geometric information is borrowed from the model. Specialized slicing software are adopted. Slicing softwares are patented by the individual companies, and they have their own. I just try to play this video. Just give me a feedback whether you are able to see the video.
Yes, sir, we can see it. And the video is also clear.
Which we call an STL file. STL is never used by all additive manufacturing systems. After inputting the STL file, some additive layer management systems will automatically generate structures that support geometry. The amount of support structure will depend on both geometry of the part and the orientation of the part. In addition to the amount of support structure needed, part orientation will also affect the surface roughness of the part and the time it takes to build that part in the additive layer manufacturing system. Once the part's been orientated and the support structure has been generated, the resulting three-dimensional geometry is then sliced electronically into two-dimensional layers. Each 2D layer representing the profile of the physical layer, which will be made using the additive layer manufacturing system. Once all the layers have been sliced, they then store the slide files on the additive layer manufacturing system waiting to be used. On completion, the slide files are then sent to the additive layer manufacturing system one by one, where they're reconstructed from the bottom up into a solid three-dimensional part. This process is done using laser sintering, selective laser melting, chromatography, 3D printing, fused deposition modeling, or a whole range of different additive layer manufacturing technologies.
Okay, so that was the slicing. Imagine if this entire blade structure, if it is to be manufactured by conventional method, imagine how much time it would have taken. Now you can make within few hours this kind of structures. So the next part is the physical part building adopted by additive manufacturing. So this is the ASTM F2792, which classifies the part building techniques in 7 families. So first I'll just talk about the families, and within each family one representative part building technology we will learn in detail. So first is a binder jetting. Binder jetting is you have a powder. Those powder particles can be made into a solid by spraying a binder, and rather those binder particles, the binder liquid will flow in amongst the particle and it will tie them, it will hold them, right? So this is the binder jetting principle. So we will learn one technology, one candidate from this family. Second is directed energy deposition. Say molten metal is deposited, the energy, high energy is supplied for melting this material, and the molten material is deposited in the required shape to get the part. That is direct energy deposition. The third one is material extrusion. So create a semi-liquid molten material and put it on the, spread it on the table, and layer by layer you create of this molten material, and that will build a part. That is called material extrusion. As a member of this family, we learn about FDM, fused deposition modeling, from ME family. So I have tried to give the entire rather features of all these families. Maybe I will give the source where you can get to know more about these families. Then another 4, totally 7 families have been identified by this ASTM standard. So the 7 families, the rather 4th one is MJ, material jetting. The curable resin itself is jetted and made to form the part. And powder bed fusion, where there is a bed of powder on which you have a high beam of, say, high energy beam like laser or UV, so which will cure that part, which will make that powder to fuse. That is called powder bed fusion. Then sheet lamination. So imagine you want to build a cone out of stickers. Say, cut those stickers, stack those stickers one above the other, and you have the part built. So it is sheet stacking of sheets. That is called sheet lamination. And the last one is photopolymerization or vat photopolymerization, which is our stereolithography, where you have a liquid collected in the vat and you say, expose this liquid to a UV or laser beam, which writes on the liquid surface and the surface hardens. And the entire height of the part is created by this repeated photopolymerization through UV exposure or laser exposure. So the candidate in this family is the stereolithography apparatus. So these 7 families and these features can be again visualized in this. These are the 4 out of 7. VAT polymerization. We will see the stereolithography apparatus. Powder bed fusion. We will see the candidate selective laser sintering. Then binder jetting. We have the 3D printing as a candidate. Material jetting, multi-jet modeling, we will discuss how it works, some basic principles of how the system works. Then 3 more, sheet lamination, laminated object manufacturing, LOM, we will see as a candidate of this family. Then material extrusion, fuse deposition modeling, FDM, we will see as a candidate of this family. Direct energy deposition, we will see LENS, how it works. LENS stands for laser engineered net shaping. Laser engineered net shaping. This is a technology belonging to the family of DED. There are other say technologies in this called direct metal deposition, DMD, say LMD, all those are a part of this family. So in each of these 7 families, we will see a candidate technology and how it works. So to start with, this is the representation of 7 technologies and their candidate members. So for VAT, we will use stereolithography apparatus. For powder bed fusion, selective laser sintering. For binder jetting, 3D printing. And for metal jetting, multi-jet modeling. For laminated object, for sheet lamination, we will use LOM, laminated object manufacturing, and material extrusion, fuse deposition modeling, and last one, the DED, direct energy deposition, we will learn something about LENS, laser engineered net shaping. Yeah. So to start with, stereolithography apparatus, how it works. A very simple operation. So here, the process when it starts, the table will be on top of, rather exactly at the surface of this liquid polymer resin. So this is a vat, this is a container for a liquid which is light sensitive. Once the light falls on this liquid hardens. In chemistry terms, we call it as curing. So when the light falls on it, it hardens or it cures. So it is photo curing resin. Photo curing resin. So the table will be exactly on the surface. When the process starts, table dips by a small amount, allowing a layer of liquid from about 0.1 to 0.5 mm thick liquid on the table surface. And then there is a laser beam or UV beam which writes the shape on this table. There is a beam just flips and creates the shape on this thin film of liquid. So that thin film of liquid hardens. Then there is a recoater blade which passes over this and then finishes the layer thickness. It trims the layer to the required thickness and then again the table dips for the next layer. When the table dips to another layer, it dips by an amount 0.5 to 0.1 to 0.5 mm. Another thin layer of liquid will occupy. Again, it is hardened by the beam. Again, recoater beam, say, trims it to the required thickness. This goes on until the required shape and until the required height of the component is achieved. So If you have not understood, I will play a video which is more self-explanatory than what I have explained now. So this stereolithography apparatus is the earliest among the AM techniques, additive manufacturing techniques. So it was easy and it used to be done in a closed, say, system. I have some examples of commercial systems also. Here I have just given the names of these commercial systems, SLA 250, using different kinds or kind of beams, lasers, different kind of other different energy lasers are used. Again, each manufacturer has its own say selection of laser, type of rather energy and type of its magnitude, rather amount. So this is another just an explanation, just to go through the schematic explaining the process. We have a platform which descends every time to create a layer. We have a beam which writes the shape, and we have a recoater blade which trims the thickness. The advantage of stereolithography apparatus are, it is the earliest technique, it is inexpensive, it uses a light sensitive liquid and to be conducted in an enclosed say atmosphere. Process is very simple, and these are some of the limitations. It requires some post curing. The part has to be heated for few minutes to complete the curing process. The long term curing can lead to warping. Sometimes the shape gets warped. Parts made are little brittle. No milling step, so height may vary. Support structure are typically required when you are creating a hollow thing. Support you have to create. Uncured material can be toxic, so the entire thing has to be say enclosed and properly ventilated so that the operator should not be at risk. So these are some of the, and because it involves liquid, it is a messy equipment. So these are some of the limitations of LA. I think now I'll play this, how it works. You can see the table there, table dipping and the laser beam writing. You can see the recoater blade. And see the laser writing. Okay, so that is SLA, stereolithography apparatus. I think this is another video.
Prototyping. Creating a sample part or object before production and manufacturing ensures desired form and function of the final part or design. Modern prototyping can reflect the final design, thereby improving design time by up to 50%. Companies can easily and quickly find out how the part interacts with the environment which it was designed for. They can hold it, test it, and feel it to ensure the geometry and design is what they wanted. One of the main processes for high-end prototyping is called SLA, stereolithography apparatus. An SLA system creates plastic parts by curing ultraviolet sensitive resin with a UV laser. The SLA system consists of a UV laser, a build platform, a vat of photo-curable liquid resin, and a computer system that controls the entire machine. All that you need to get started is a 3D model of your desired prototype, a CAD software package, or a 3D animation software package. This is all that is necessary to provide build information to the SLA system. Special software then cuts the 3D or CAD file into 1,000 layers per inch, called slices, and outputs the slice data to the SLA system. First, a platform is lowered into the vat of resin and is leveled off at the very top of the vat. The UV laser then draws the first layer shape into the resin, solidifying the first slice onto the platform. After the first slice is cured by the laser, the platform then lowers into the resin anywhere from 1 to 7,000 of an inch, depending on the desired resolution. The recoater arm then sweeps across the top of the previous slice, layering a film of resin that is then cured by the UV laser again. This process repeats as the platform lowers into the vat, and the part is built layer by layer. Within a few hours, the part is complete, containing most or all of the detail from the original 3D file.
Okay, so these are some of the commercial, say, stereolithographic apparatus system one I have shown here, SLA 7000 system. So the second part, second candidate, it is from the powder bed fusion family. It is called selective laser sintering. I will explain the process first, and then to make you understand the process, I will play a video. So here you have 3 bins where the powder to be fused into the part is stored. So first bin consists of the powder. The left hand side bin has this powder, right? So when the process starts, the roller feeds this powder to the, say, part building bin. This is the part building bin or part building table. The table will be at the topmost position. It descends by a distance equal to the thickness of the layer, and the powder is fed by this roller into this bin. So by rolling, it creates a thin layer of powder onto the table, right? Then a laser writes the picture of the slice on the thin layer of the powder. So what happens to the powder? Powder particles, because of the high energy laser, they melt on the surface and they bind together, they fuse together. When they fuse together, that part we assume to be hardened. It looks to be hardened. So that part is hardened. Again, the table descends down, another powder is fed, and the excessive powder is pushed to this excess powder take up, right? When the one layer is complete, the excess powder is pushed by the powder leveling roller into this bin, and this can be recycled. It can be reused also. It can be reused. So there is no waste. There is less waste in the process, entire process. So the powder layer created by this powder leveling roller, the slice created by the carbon dioxide laser written on this powder, and the excess powder put here. So it is a 3-bin process. This entire thing gets repeated n number of times, as much as whatever is the number of layers. it is repeated to create the entire height or the rather total dimension of the part. So this is the selective laser sintering. Here are some of the features. This is a thermoplastic powder, but now metal sintering is also used now. Metal powder is used with high energy laser. They are able to make even metal sintered powder, say parts. CMTI, they have a direct metal laser sintering machine through which they used to make these nice watch casings for Titan Raga. Titan Raga is a very famous brand for ladies now. So very artistic watch casings were made by this direct metal laser sintering process. So features of selective laser sintering technology. The process is explained here. Quickly you can go through the annotation. A laser beam is traced over the thin layer of powder, and the part building piston, it descends down to create layer by layer. And selective laser sintering can be used for any commercial things. There was one question on the usage of this additive manufacture for civil engineering. Civil engineering application, you can see a big complex to be created for visualizing and for presenting to the customers, right? Those who come for booking their houses or offices. See, this is the commercial version of selective laser sintering machine, SLS. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think I have mixed up the video. I'll play again. So the next family is 3D printing or binder jetting, BJ. BJ family, the candidate is binder jetting. So in binder jetting, it is not fusing of the powder, but it is binding of the powder by jetting a liquid ink or liquid binder onto the powder particle. So here,
excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry.
Excuse. Sir, somebody else is presenting. We are able to see your screen.
Somebody?
Muttaya, please stop sharing your screen.
I'm not able to hear correctly. Navi?
Somebody else is sharing their screen, sir.
Okay, we'll see, sir. We'll see. We'll see.
Somebody sharing the screen.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, that is okay, sir. We exited. You please continue, sir. Kulkarni, sir.
Yeah.
There was a problem, and the problem is resolved. And you can please continue.
Okay. Because my video was not available. That is what. Okay. Anyhow, so binder jet technology. Here, the powder layer is not fused by layer, but it is bound by liquid particles sprayed onto it. So 3D printing, which is of late the popular technology, is the example for this kind of binder jetting family. So here are some features. So similar to SLS, the powder is pushed onto the work table to create a thin layer. A spray of binder is created by a nozzle in the shape of the slice, and then table descends down to create the required height of the component. So this is the physical working, the process of 3D printing. These are some of the features. You can see the entire progression, how it does. See, powder is spread, the layer is printed, then again the piston goes down. This is repeated until the final height of the part is achieved. Final shape and height of the part is achieved. So these are some of the parts made by 3D printing. I think I have the, these are some of the commercial machines making this 3D printing. Sorry, I'm facing some problem with the video. I will just exit and come back. Okay. Anyway, are you able to see the screen?
Sir, screen is
Are you able to
visible.
see the screen?
Sir, please share your screen.
Screen
Kulkarni sir,
is not visible?
sir,
You have to share the screen, sir. Share option.
share your screen.
No, I had done that. One minute, huh? I'll go back and again I'll share it.
Hello? Kulkarni sir.
One minute.
He is presenting. He is presenting.
Is it visible now?
Visible, sir, visible.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm sorry for the interruption. So the another family is material jetting, where the material in liquid form, curable material in liquid form, is jetted with rather by large number of nozzles to create the shape of the part.
Sir,
Prabhu,
we are not able to see anything in this screen. It's a blank slide. Is it what you are presenting?
no, sorry. Now, is the screen advancing?
No, sir, it's not advancing. That is the problem.
Now, okay. I will
Just
stop
close it.
sharing and come back. 1 minute. I'll stop sharing and I'll come back again.
Yes, sir. You just redo that. That would be okay.
Yeah. Now is it fine? Are you able to see it now? Mr. Venkatesh?
Yes, sir. It's visible. It's okay now.
Yeah. Sorry for the interruption. So this is the 3D printing. The next family is
Sir, make it presentation mode. Make it presentation mode.
Actually, I have made it in my laptop. You are not able to see that. Are the screen advancing? Are the slides advancing?
Just do one, sir. I will see.
No,
No, sir. It's not. It's not going.
they are not moving. Okay, there is some problem. Okay, again I'll go back and stop presenting and again I'll do it. Now, is it in the slideshow mode?
Let me check.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, advance this slide, sir.
Okay. So now the multi-jet modeling is a member of material jetting family where the curable resin is injected through large number of nozzles and it takes the shape. It gets cured in the required shape of the layer and the layers are built. So this is the simple concept schematic for explaining. Through the nozzle, a liquid, curable liquid is say jetted and the cured liquid occupies the layer space and layer by layer the part is built. I think I'll have a video to show that. So this is the concept. You have a MJM head, material multi-jet modeling head, where large number of nozzles like our inkjet printer nozzles, large number of nozzles will spray the UV curable resin or light curable resin onto a platform to create the layers and the entire shape of the part. So you can see the large number of parts built at one go using this multi-jet modeling. So the next family is sheet lamination, where the sheets are cut as layers in a particular form and then they are stuck one above the other to create the part. So the example technology is laminated object manufacturing, LOM. So Helicis are the manufacturers of this type. So the principle, I'll just explain the principle and then play the video as usual. So here you have the material supply role and the take-up role. So material supply role introduces this material on top of the work table and the laser beam cuts the sheet into the required layer form. Once the required layer form is cut, the laminating roller passes over that and it presses the layer so that the top layer rather gets attached to the bottom layer, right? And then the table descends down gradually to create the height of the part through so many sheets of this take-up roll or sheets of material. So the raw material is in the form of rolled sheets here, and the part is built through cutting of the sheet and attaching of the sheet one above the other, stacking of the sheets one above the other. So this is the principle of LOM, laminated object manufacturing. There is no audio for this, it is only a schematic that is played. Say one sheet is on the work table, one part of the sheet, and now it is cut by the laser. Once the layer information is cut, the roller presses this layer onto the, you can observe the table descending and creating layer by layer, and each time the supply roll feeding one more sheet which is cut by the, so this is the technology used for laminated object manufacturing. The next is fuse deposition modeling. Say after stereolithography apparatus, one of the widely used technologies is FDM, fuse deposition modeling. Whatever 3D printers you see in the market, now 3D printers are available. If you go to Amazon and check, right from 70, say 30,000 to say few lakhs, 30 lakhs, you can get different 3D printers. Some are open source, some they give only the structure and the program, all those things. So most of them are based on FDM or fuse deposition modeling. What is this fuse deposition modeling? So I'll explain the principle first, then I'll play the video. So here, the fuse deposition modeling, we have a nozzle through which the wire form passes through, or the material, raw material in the form of wire is spread through the nozzle, right? And these will fuse, the nozzles are heated, the material fuses in the nozzle, and then it is deposited on the table, which hardens because it is in the semi-liquid form because of heat. When it cools down, it hardens and takes the shape of a layer. It hardens as a layer, and layer by layer it is built. So this is one of the cheapest and most widely used manufacturing or additive manufacturing process that is used. Here, typically there are two types of materials used. One is called support material, that is for overhanging parts. Support material is put where above which the actual part material is put. In the post-processing stage, the support materials are removed. Support materials are dissolved or removed. They are dissolved by a solution or maybe physically cut using the snippers. So this is the FDM process. So you can see the two nozzles. One nozzle is of the part material and another pink nozzle for support material. So part material dispenses fused material onto the table, and then the pink nozzle dispenses fused material, fused support material on the table, and when the support material is dissolved, you will get the required part. So the part is what part you are interested is a hollow like this. So we have used large number of support material, and support material again it can be cycled also. So there is no not significant waste, no significant waste in the process. So another commercially available FDM system. So that was FDM process. Yeah. So now coming to the last of the processes, already I am having rather, we have only about 10 minutes. I will try to complete this last candidate, which belongs to the direct energy deposition family, DED family. It is called laser engineered net shaping. I'll just explain the working principle. So it is an extension of your arc welding. Say here we have a nozzle which dispenses fused material. It can be metal also, and you have a laser beam. So you have the laser beam and you have a powder stream of, say, either polymer or metal. Typically it is more popular with metals. So metal powder is dispensed through the same nozzle through which there is a laser beam. When the powder comes in contact with this high energy laser, it melts. The molten metal is made to rather create a shape on this substrate, right? And there is also a gas shielding, like our metal, say we have the gas shielded welding. So to prevent this metal from oxidizing, there is a gas shielding done. So it is something like our submerged arc welding extension of this. The tool is something like automated submerged arc welding tool, which creates layers, and these layers diffuse and then they form the part. So this is laser engineered net shaping. And the exact meaning of this is it doesn't require any post-processing. What you get is the exact shape and exact dimension. That is why it is called net shaping. You can observe that in the following video. How
laser engineered net shaping, or LENS, is an additive manufacturing process in the directed energy deposition category. It uses powder sprayed into a laser to produce fully dense parts with a high deposition rate. To begin, a 3D drawing is imported into the device software that divides the part in multiple layers. The powder used is placed in a dispenser, which ensures a constant flow during projection. More than one type of powder can be used at the same time, allowing the production of parts with chemical composition gradients. The chamber of the system is flushed with argon in order to obtain an atmosphere containing a few ppm of oxygen. It is thus possible to work with reactive metals such as titanium and zirconium. This technique can also do part repair, production of surface cladding, and adding new sections to an existing part. The part is printed in a few hours. After a last step of surface machining, the final part is obtained.
okay. Now coming to the last bit of my presentation, we have seen 7 different families as per the ASTM. ASTM has classified 7 different part building technologies, and based on these families, we have seen how these candidates work. Right? More or less, other members of the family also behave like this. We have studied only one typical candidate belonging to that family. Now, which many other questions for the earlier speaker also were directed at which process is good, which is cheap, which one we have to buy, which one we have to use, all those things. Again, it is a complicated selection process. The selection of AM process is based on what is your purpose. Are you using for prototyping or for manufacturing of the part? Then whether it is for design verification or visualization, what is the size of the part, whether the part is hollow or solid, what is the accuracy of dimension you require, what is the strength of the part you require, are the part features having free access, Is it complex? Is it simple? All these things matter in your process selection. And ultimately, out of all, rather above all these things, it is the economy which rules the selection. Whether the part made by AM is economical or the part made by conventional process is economical. If you are going for a simple part, you just because the AM machine is available, if I use it unnecessarily, I am adding cost. Which the same part could have been done by either say milling or other associated conventional processes. So the selection is very, very critical. This is a guideline for selection. This gives the overall, this is also the summary of my talk. The entire 7 families of AM processes are shown in this slide. BP, BJ, MJ, PBF, DD, ME and SL. VAT polymerization, binder jet, material jetting, powder bed fusion, direct energy deposition, material extrusion and sheet lamination. And we have seen the candidates from there. And some of these processes are typically for polymer, plastics. The example of 3D systems, Stratasys, fuse deposition modeling, they are able to even rather create parts of ABS, acrylobutadiene styrene, which is a tough plastic which is used in many of our day-to-day applications. So they have variety of capabilities. Some are for plastics, some are for metals, and metal rather additive manufacturing process is still the costlier version. A metal involves a lot of energy to be imparted to the fusing or deposition. So it's rather a capital intensive system for employing in the industry. So this is the summary. So with this I will conclude. So we started with approach to part manufacture, subtractive, formative and additive. Rather, what are the advantages of additive manufacturing we dwelt upon. Then we saw the components, what is slicing and how the layer by layer manufacturing forms the part of, forms the heart of additive manufacturing. We learned something about slicing. Then part building, the 7 families listed by the ASTM, and each of these 7 families, how they work, we have seen. I think with this, I conclude with the last note of giving my gratitude to entire administration at Canara College for giving me this opportunity to share whatever little I have learned in this process. So with this, I will hand over to Naveen, so you can continue the session. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, and we could learn a lot from your session about the 7 families of additive manufacturing, like SLA, FLS, FDM, lens belonging to say to material jetting, extrusion, or even powder bed fusion or light photopolymerization. What I could understand is that lots of waste reduction and time to market gets reduced drastically. And one thing what I could really wonder and take cue from you is that, sir, you are so meticulous about citing the sources for each diagram, each picture that you have taken, and each videos that you have presented over there. And that's really I'm very thankful to you. And we many times we just neglect that part, but you are so particular, you did not even leave that particular part. And junior members have a lot to learn from that. And now I throw the session open for the participants to ask doubts. One doubt was there from Mr. Prasanna Rao regarding which particular session or which particular process any other 3D modeling tool available apart from SLA, which is more efficient? You have already answered partly towards that. Would you like to throw something on that? Sir, unmute, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Now
Are you able to hear me? Yeah. Yeah, again, the selection process, as I told, is governed by so many factors. There is no straightforward selection process. First thing is purpose. Are you using it for rapid tooling, rapid prototyping, or design verification? What is your purpose? And as our previous speaker, Kamath, has put, it is the volume that matters. If you are creating parts in large numbers, AM is not the process for time being. As of now, AM is not a process for large volume production. It is for limited volume production. Generally, it is a very interesting in our manufacturing that we have mass manufacture. We used to call that line, balancing of line and all those. So, and we have shop type. Shop type is variety, versatile. Every week I get different orders. I can change the rather my machine structure and create different parts. That is a job shop manufacture, we say. But now, with all these advances in CAD/CAM, in computer integrated manufacture, all these are for addressing this variety and volume. If the variety is large, then mass manufacture cannot be employed. If the variety is large, economical with the job shop, right? If the variety is less, volume is large, then mass manufacture we have to look at. It is more economical to produce large volumes at a lesser price if we adopt mass manufacturing. So as of now, AM is not for a large volume production. It is for a limited volume where the design changes can be very frequent. Very frequent changes in the part shapes are expected. There our AM technique will work. And as one of the videos said, the companies can reduce as much as 50% the time to market, TTM. TTM can be reduced as much as 50% by adopting this technology. Have I answered the question?
Yes, sir. Hope you answered the question. And that answers my question also. I was also about to ask why cost is not a criteria while selecting the technologies. I think I have answered that question because since we are using it only for design changes and all those things, the cost may not be a very important factor at this stage.
No, cost is always a primary factor in selection. I said above all these things, cost is the criteria.
Then which process, is there any difference among the process of various processes like SLA, SLS, LOM, FDM regarding
lot of differences. For example, if your purpose is to make models, verification models, say for example, OnePlus wants to create 10 different types of say casings, right? And select which is the best, right? They can do it rapidly by this FDM technique, using ABS, using the plastic materials. They can roll out n number of prototypes, and among them they can select which is the best. But if you are interested in, somebody in the previous section asked, can we use this for creating structure, civil engineering structure? Of course, FDM cannot be used because FDM is limited to plastics. You cannot have load bearing components using FDM. You cannot create load bearing components using the AM processes which are meant for plastic products. Right? The answer was very nicely put by Dr. Kamath that we have the carbon fibers now. Carbon fibers will give strength. Yes, carbon reinforced composites can give structural strength, but our processes are yet to mature to include those fibers and all those things in the FDM process, fused deposition modeling process. And build volumes, the structural components are large ones and the build volumes are very large. So again, that is a challenge for AM to include. So each AM process has its own different capability. That is why the selection is mind-boggling.
Correct, sir. That's yeah, I could understand it now. And one more thing, what I need, I just wonder is that with respect to the density, normally in conventional CI, whether if it takes I or MS or AL, normally the density ranges from 3 grams per cc to 8 grams per cc. But plastics, I think that it's just about 1.2. Then how do they take care of the density factor?
Okay, very nice question. You see, density, again, density and porosity. Density is less when there is some porosity is induced in the part. See, here we are adding powder or we are adding something and fusing. So automatically the porosity creeps in. So that is why you, in the parts made by AM, you find that there is a porosity. Porosity is there even in metallurgical, powder metallurgical parts, PM. There, because of the compaction, the density may be played with or density may be altered by altering the compaction parameter. But here, in case of direct metal sintering or say other techniques, direct metal laser sintering or lens, laser engine net shaping, when you are depositing the material, there is no way to force the material to bind together. So that is why the AM parts are prone to porosity and less density compared to the conventional parts. And the very conventional thing that we teach our students, that difference between the forged part and the cast part. When you want something to cool, it is directional alignment. During forging, when I hit heat and they hit the material, these molecules get arranged in random. So that gives strength. So that is why still forged parts are well sought for say stronger structural materials. So as Dr. Kamath has put, it has to mature. More and more processes should come into picture, and this high dense material, high densification can be achieved through some means, so that the porosity is totally zero. Then we can build high strength parts using have I answered?
Yes, sir. I can understand. But is there any advancement like adding some additive materials in order to fill up the porosity? Is there anything like that?
As of now, I have not come across. The only way I think is to compact them. Whether along with this AM process, if there is a way to force these layers to come closer and reduce the porosity, I think people will be working on these things. And it is typically for metal based. Anyhow, polymer based are lightweight and they can be tolerated.
So, Naveen sir here. Sir, to answer, I may add something that there is a laser manufacturing technique. So where to answer Venkatesh sir's question because it is a layer by layer. In micro manufacturing, we are going to have a micro welding. So you can add some more part into this so that implants can be made or dental implants can be made with metal additive manufacturing. Laser additive technique is one of the aspects where there is much work going on. That is what I wanted to add. I may be right or maybe a little bit nearby, so you may clarify.
I think there is some breaking in our voice now.
Okay, sir, no issues.
No, there is some breaking in your voice.
Okay.
Anything else from the participants? Anybody would like to add anything to share their experience or ask any clarification?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Sir, in metal additive manufacturing, I think micro welding or laser.
Hello, Navin sir, 1 minute.
Yes, sir.
Kulkarni sir, probably you have kept the speakers. So if you mute yourself when other participant is talking, then there will not be echo.
Okay.
Navin sir, you can speak now. Navin sir, you wanted to tell
Yes,
something?
sir. Nothing.
Now you tell,
much,
sir.
Nothing much, sir. My question was, we have a micro manufacturing techniques where we are going to do at a micro level, subtractive as well as additive. Can in a micro laser welding or laser welding techniques, this additive manufacturing can help it for depositing and bringing back or shrinking down or the density part problem can be resolved. That was my question, sir.
Unmute sir now. Sir, unmute and speak.
Okay, as you have observed in that video of lens, you can use these processes to join and repair parts. You can deposit a layer, say it can be for coating, say other processes also. I'm sorry, our students are logging in for the class. Sorry. So I think I have answered your question. This process can be used even for joining or welding, as you said, micro welding and say micro coatings, micron layer coatings. All those can be created using these processes also.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Sir, you are...
I'm sorry.
No
I'm
problem.
sorry that, yeah.
No problem, sir. Sir, your student Dashrath, Dr. Dashrath M is there, sir. Your student from MTech Manufacturing, he is also there. Would you like to ask question? I think, sir. Dashrath, sir?
Anything else? If no more clarifications, I think we can end this session. Anything else, participants? I don't think any participant
No,
need any clarification.
anything they can share my email ID and they can discuss with me through email. My email ID is smkulk@gmail.com. Maybe I'll yeah.
You can type it in the chat box, sir. Or you can type it in the chat box.
You can, yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm afraid I'll have to quit because I have a class.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Thank you a lot.
Yeah.
Your session was very informative and we could learned a lot from your on behalf of the Department of Mechanical Engineering and Engineering College. I thank Dr. S.M. for sharing his knowledge and giving his valuable time with us. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks once again.
Thank you. I
Naveen,
wish
sir.
to see you all soon. Thank you, Dr. Prabhu. That's you, Dr. Venkatesh, Naveen, Dasharath. Yeah, we'll meet. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I'll leave the
Yes.
meeting, Dr. Prabhu.
Okay, sir.
Prabhu, I'll leave the meeting.
Okay, okay. Participants, we'll be sharing the attendance link with you. Hope you will be answering your attendance with the link which will be sharing in the chat window as well as into our WhatsApp group. Okay, and our next session will be on experimental learning through digital manufacturing by Dr. Prithviraj U, Assistant Professor from a Department of Water Resource and Ocean Engineering, NITK, Surat. So the session will be starting at sharp 2. Okay. So we'll be sharing the link of a first session and the second session attendance link with you. Okay.
Next session is at 2 o'clock, right, Naveen, sir?
Session is at 2 o'clock. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Please join them.